class 8. As you know that we have read this chapter, Stone Phase 2. So what we have come to know that finally chapter was completed with them.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So we have come to know that ultimately who was that stone face? Ultimately, Ernest was the stone face because he was having great words of wisdom. He is a good, you can say, he is discussing problems with others, and ultimately he has an aura around himself, like mist has developed, or mist and clouds that has developed around stone face. Similarly, his white hairs developed that kind of aura around him, and it was who was he who recognized this thing, and it was ultimately the poet who has recognized that Ernest is the actual stone face, or Ernest bears the resemblance with the stone face. But Ernest, who was again a man of thoughts, he ultimately thought a better man than he would definitely come who would bear resemblance with that great stone face. Okay. So now let us start with this. First of all, true and false are given. First is Ernest's words reminded people of the wise old sayings. Is it true or false?
True.
True. It is true. True. Next is total strangers from far away who visited Ernest in the valley found his face familiar. It is true.
True.
True. Very good. It is true. Next. Third is the great stone face confirmed Ernest's view that the poet could be worthy of its likeness. True or false?
False. False.
False. That poet could be worthy of its likeness. It's false. When Ernest and the poet met, they respected and admired each other equally.
True.
Yes, they admired and respected each other equally. Next is the poet, along with Ernest, addressed the inhabitants of the valley. It is true or
False.
it is false?
False.
Okay, poet has not addressed, it was only Ernest who has addressed the inhabitants of the valley. Next.
True.
Next is the poet realized that Ernest's thoughts were far nobler than his own verses. Is it true or false?
True.
It is
True.
yes, of course, true. True.
True.
Right now, here goes the first question. How was Ernest different from others in the valley? How was Ernest different from others in the valley? Yes, speak the answer. Who will speak? Yes. Rhythm, can you speak?
Yes.
Yes, speak
Yes,
out.
ma'am.
Yes.
Ernest was very humble, noble, thoughtful, and kind-hearted person. As he grew old, he became a personality, and his qualities reached beyond the limits of the valley.
Hmm.
College professors and active men of cities would come from far places to visit with Ernest. He welcomed and received them with gentle sincerity and would talk to them fairly with an open heart.
Okay, so how you can write down? How you can write down that Ernest was different from other persons in the valley as he was good, kind, and simple-hearted. Okay, simple-hearted, good, kind, simple-hearted, and he was quite thoughtful. Okay, he was quite thoughtful. Okay, he was quite thoughtful also. So this is how he was different from other person. He has great wisdom. Okay, how he has great wisdom? He has great wisdom as number of persons, okay, and that college professors and even active men of the valley come to him to seek his advice. Why they have come to him to seek his advice. Okay, and he is also able to formulate his own opinion. He is also able to formulate his own opinion. These points must be included. Okay, all these points, they must be included in your answer. Okay, so he is also able to formulate his own opinion, as when other people thought that gather gold and Commander Thunder bear resemblance with Great Stone Face. He has formulated his own opinion that these are not bearing any resemblance with Great Stone Face. Okay, this you write down. Okay, so 1 minute, please. Just a moment. That they did not bear any resemblance with Great Stone Face, and he did not go with the crowd. Okay, he did not go with the crowd. And again, another great quality is that he always welcomed, which is mentioned in the chapter, he always welcomed strangers as prophets. He always welcomed strangers as prophets. Strangers as prophets. So all these points must be included in your answer, that he was good, kind, simple-hearted, thoughtful in nature. He also has great wisdom, as college professors and active men of the valley used to come to him to seek his advice. And he is also able to formulate his own opinion. Okay, as when other people thought that the Commander Thunder as well as Gather bear great resemblance with the stone face, he thought that they are not that they are not worthy of this likeness, and he always welcomed strangers as prophets. Right? So answer is clear to you? Yes, class 8. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now we are going to the second question. So what is the second question? The second question is, why did Ernest think the poet was like the stone face? Why did Ernest think the poet was like the stone face? Yes. Who will give the answer? Yes. Somil, Kritika, you can speak.
The poet wrote wonderful poems. He had celebrated the stone face in one of his poems. When Ernest read this poem, he became convinced that the poet was like the stone face.
Okay, right. So why? Because he has presented great thoughts in his poems. Okay. So first thing is that he has presented great thoughts in his poems, and moreover, he has also celebrated great stone face in one of his poems, right? So when Ernest he read this poem, he thought, or he was convinced that no other man who bears resemblance with great stone face can have these kind of exalted thoughts. So this is the reason why he thought that the poet was like the stone face. So what we will write down? So the poet. Okay, so how you will write down? The poet has great thoughts. The poet has great thoughts. Okay, he has also celebrated great stone face in one of his poems. Okay, he has also celebrated great stone face in one of his poems. And when Ernest read that poem, he was also convinced that no other man who has great thoughts, other than this can be a resemblance with great stone face. Okay, so what he has thought, then ultimately he thought that it was only the poet who bears a resemblance with great stone face. Okay, so what he has come to know, that ultimately he has come to know that it was only he who bears resemblance with great stone face. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Right? Now, the next question is, what did the poet himself say about his thoughts and poems? What he said? Yes. What he said?
But can I tell?
Yes, please.
The poet and Ernest had a long conversation when they meet.
Yes, yes. What he thought. Rhythm, what happened? Somil. Where is Somil? Raise up your hands. Viran, can you answer? You are a very good student, but you never answered in class. Japuji, can you be able to answer? So,
Yes.
yes, now you can speak.
The poet and Ernest had a long conversation when they meet. They went to a meeting place together where Ernest addressed the audience. The poet heard him speak and realized that Ernest's words and thoughts had great depth and wisdom. As Ernest talked at a distance along with the golden light
Hmm.
of setting sun, the great stone face appeared with white mist around it, just like the white hairs around the brow of Ernest.
Hmm.
At the moment, Ernest's face took on an expression so grand that the poet was moved and proclaimed that Ernest held a striking resemblance to the great stone face.
So now you have given quite in detail answer. So how we will write down in very, you can say, crisp manner. Okay, so now let us see how we will may write down only the main things. So what did the poet himself say about his thoughts? So what he has thought, what he has said. The poet himself, first of all, he has confessed that he does not bear any resemblance with, means he does not have any resemblance. He doesn't have any resemblance with Great Stone Face. Why? Because he lacked faith in his own dreams. Why? Because he lacked faith in his own dreams. Okay, so this he has said. Of course, he said, of course, and moreover, he has also said, means the thoughts presented in the poem are not his own. Thoughts presented in the poem, they are not his own. He admitted, okay? He admitted that, and ultimately, what he said, that the thoughts presented in the poem are not his own. So ultimately, he is not worthy of this kind of likeness, not worthy of this likeness, that he bears resemblance with that of Great Stone Face, right? So he is not worthy of this kind of resemblance that he bears with Great Stone Face. Okay, so clear this answer. So what you will write down? What you will write down, that he himself admitted or he himself confessed that he doesn't have or doesn't bear any resemblance with Great Stone Face. Why? Because he lacked faith in his own dreams. Because he said that whatever he had great dreams, he said that he had great dreams, but he lacked faith in his own dreams, and moreover, the thoughts presented in, you can say, the thoughts presented in the presented in his poems, they are not his own, and he is not worthy of this kind of likeness to be a resemblance with Great Stone Face. Note down these important points, jot down these points so that
मैम इन पॉइंट्स को थोड़ा थोड़ा एक्सप्लेन भी करना है.
yes, I have written only main things. Okay. Main highlights I have written here of the answer. Okay, so you will write, you will elaborate in your own words, of course, right? Clear? Should I move to the next one? Okay, fine.
Yes, ma'am.
The next question is, what made the poet proclaim Ernest was the stone face? Why he said that Ernest was the stone face? Now Kritika will speak. Yes, Kritika, you can speak. Can you give answer? Yes, Kritika, can you explain? So let us see This sea. It is completely mentioned in the last 3 paragraphs of the chapter. Okay, that see the third last paragraph. Ernest threw a look of familiar kindness around upon its audience. He began to speak to people what was in his heart and mind. His words had power because they agreed. So I am shifting it here. See here. See here. It is completely mentioned. Okay. So his thoughts had reality and depth because they harmonized with life which he had always lived. It was not mere breath, but they were the words of life. A life of good deeds and selfless love was melted into them. The poet listened and felt the life and character of Ernest was a nobler strain of poetry than he had ever written. So at a distance, next see, after that what is written? High up in the golden light of setting sun appeared great stone face. At that moment, Ernest's face took an expression so grand that the poet moved to throw his arms upon and shout that Ernest is the great stone face. Okay, so this completely explains the answer. Okay, now the thing is that how we will explain this answer. Okay, so when you can write down that when Ernest and the poet went to address the audience in the evening. Okay, so you can start with that when Ernest as well as the poet, they went to address the audience in the evening. Okay, so the words spoken by Ernest. Okay, what were the words? Were of his heart and mind. Okay, so the words of Ernest or the words spoken by Ernest were of his words spoken by Ernest. What were these? These were of his heart and mind. These were of his heart and mind. Okay, his words have power. Next, his words have power. Okay, so his words had power because these were the experiences of life. What were these? These were experiences of life melted into words. What it was experiences of life that were melted into words. Okay, so at that moment when the poet listened to his words, then he realized that his thoughts were quite nobler than his poetry. Okay, that his thoughts they were nobler. So when he has listened to his thoughts, then he realized his thoughts were nobler than his poetry. Nobler than his poetry. This is the one thing meeting, that is the meeting that has been held and how he has realized. And moreover, when you can say, when the poet has looked at great stone face, it was you can say an aura of whiteness was created. What was? An aura of whiteness was created. How? By the mist. Who has created this white aura? By mist. Similarly, the white hair of Ernest's face created this kind of likedness. Okay, what it created? This kind of likedness, and this made the poet to express that it is only Ernest who bears resemblance with great stone face. Okay, so this white hair of Ernest, what it shows, it also shows this kind of likeness. So this made the poet to express loudly that it was none other than who? It was none other than Ernest who bears resemblance with great stone face. Clear now? Once again, I repeat that when poet as well as Ernest has gone in the evening to address the audience, the words spoken by Ernest were of his heart and mind. They were not only expressions, but his words have power. These were his experiences of life melted into words. Then the poet realized that his words were nobler than his own poetry. And moreover, when he has looked at great stone face in the evening light, he has seen an aura of whiteness which was created by mist around stone face, and he found the similar likeness, or he found similarity of the aura, same aura that was created by white hair of Ernest, and found that similar type of likeness, and found that what it was, that the great stone face was none other than, who was none other than, it was none other than, you can say, Ernest, right? Clear now? That's fine.
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. Now, again, write Ernest or poet against statement below. This we have to do on book. There was a gap between his life and his words. For whom?
Poet.
Poet. His words had power of truth as they agreed with his thoughts.
Ernest.
Ernest. His words were as soothing as a heavenly song, but only as useful as a vague dream.
Poet.
Poet. His thoughts were worthy. Poet. Ernest thought of this. Whatever he said was truth itself.
Ernest.
Ernest, right. His poems were noble. It was by poet.
Poet.
Okay.
Poet.
Poet. Next, his life was nobler than all his poems. This is for
Ernest.
Ernest. He lacked faith in his own thoughts. Poet.
Poet.
Poet. His thoughts had power as they agreed with the life he lived.
Ernest.
Ernest. So greatness lies in truth. Truth is best expressed in one's actions. He was truthful, therefore
Ernest.
honest. It was honest. Okay. So the next one, let me show you on screen also. Yes, here it is. Yes. Next is, who by common consent turned out to be like the great stone face? Who turned by common consent? Common means by, you can say, consent of all. It was Ernest. Okay, you can write it on book. Okay, Ernest was turned out to be like the great stone face by common consent. Okay, did Ernest believe that the old prophecy had come true, and why did he say about it? Ernest thought that old prophecy has come true? No.
No bad.
So he was not saying, because he hoped that someday a man wiser than him and nobler than him and with greater or with exalted thoughts would definitely come, and who would bear resemblance with great stone face, right? Okay. So this answer you have to write down in your fair notebooks. No, Ernest did not believe the old prophecy, or did not believe that the old prophecy had come true. For he thought that a man who would be nobler in thoughts and rich in expression would definitely appear in the valley, and who would bear resemblance with great stone face, right?
मैम एक बार थर्ड क्वेश्चन रिपीट कर दोगे?
Which one?
थर्ड क्वेश्चन ऑफ एनसीईआरटी बुक.
What did the poet himself say about his thoughts? Okay, so what did he say? He thought that he was not worthy of, you can say, this likeness to be a resemblance with great stone face, because his thoughts are not so nobler. Okay, he lacked faith in his own dreams also. Okay, and moreover, he has also said that the thoughts expressed in his poems were not his own. So what he thought that he did not bear any resemblance with great stone face. Okay, is it clear?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, right.
Yes.
Fine. Next one is mark the meaning. Just a moment. Yes, next is mark the meaning that best list the word or phrase in the story. First is sun going down. What it means? It means setting of sun. Okay. Wait a minute. Yes, Kritika, you can speak side by side. Next is brightening. What is brightening? It is making it look bright and cheerful. Making it look bright and cheerful. Next is spacious. What is spacious?
Special and important.
Huh? No. Spacious is
Special.
having big space. It is big and wide. We will say this room is quite large. It means it is spacious. Next is prophecy. What is
Prediction.
prediction? It is prediction. Next, marvelous.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. Marvelous is, of course, wonderful. Okay. Next is proclaim.
Reveal.
No, it is announce. Announce or declare. Okay. Next, seize. Seize means
Happen.
stop. It has ceased to be done. Next, a night's shelter. A night shelter, what it means? Stay. He has come to
Stay.
take a night's shelter means to stay. Next is gazed.
Stared at.
Stare at, because stare itself means to look continuously. Next is took on an expression. It means resembled. Okay, it means what it means? It means resembled. So that's all for, you can say, these matches. Till now too much has been done. You have to write down these question answers. Tomorrow we will do the back exercise.